Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And a very warm welcome to this special edition of BIBF Islamic Finance Talk Series. My name is Dr. Rizwan Malik. I head up the Islamic Finance Center at the Bahrain Institute of Banking and Finance, which is the training arm of the Central Bank of Bahrain. And it is a pleasure to open today's conversation on the topic that is both timely and critical for the future of the industry: driving organizational cultural change, the leadership imperative in Islamic finance. We are glad to partner up with Association of Sharia Advisors in Islamic Finance, ASAS from Malaysia, and the Islamic Financial Times from the UK in putting together this specialized podcast today. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, Islamic finance has achieved significant growth over the past decades. However, one of its pressing challenges today is not structural or technical. Instead, it is cultural and leadership driven. Many institutions today have the frameworks and products in place, yet the deeper challenge lies in embedding a genuine values driven culture, one that reflects not only compliance but conviction, purpose, and long term vision. As a result, the industry needs to continue producing practitioners that are excellent believers in the spirit of the Islamic banking and finance. The gap lies not in the availability of knowledge, but in the depth of the leadership commitment and alignment. As the industry matures, the focus must shift towards developing leaders who genuinely believe in and advocate for Islamic finance beyond transactional or career driven engagement, fostering organizational cultures that reflect integrity, accountability, and ethical purpose, not just compliance. Managing change effectively, particularly in institutions undergoing transformation, conversion, or strategic repositioning. Ensuring that Islamic finance remains authentic, relevant, and resilient in a rapidly evolving financial landscape. Ultimately, the long-term sustainability of Islamic finance will depend not only on products and regulation, but on the quality, the conviction, and consistency of its leadership. We have multiple efforts in that space, and an important one is organizing of the Cambridge Islamic Finance Leadership Program, an annual program that aims to develop leaders within the global Islamic banking and finance industry. The program takes place in August at the Cambridge University on an annual basis. Building on the success of the BIBF Islamic Finance Talk Series, today's session is a step in the right direction. It will bring together distinguished industry leaders to explore how can leadership drive meaningful cultural change within Islamic financial institutions to ensure long-term authenticity, relevance, and sustainability. The discussions today will move beyond technical structures to focus on people, leadership mindset, and organizational culture that ultimately define the success of Islamic finance. The discussion is therefore an important opportunity to reflect on how leadership can shape institutions that are authentic, resilient, and aligned with the true spirit of Islamic finance. Today's discussion invites us to reflect on the role of leadership in bridging this gap, moving from compliance to conviction. And we're very honored to have industry veterans who are joining us to share their knowledge, wisdom, and experience of what led them to lead some of the important institutions within the global Islamic banking and finance industry. We're honored to have Datu Mr. Muazzam Muhammad, the former CEO of Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad, and Mr. Mufaddal Khumri, who is the CEO of Maldives Islamic Bank. We're very honored to have them with us and to lead the discussions and to moderate the discussion with the two veterans. We have Ms. Shiza Rabbani to take the conversation forward. I hand it over to Ms. Shiza Rabbani to take us forward, inshallah, from here on.
Thank you, Dr. Rizwan, for that introduction. First of all, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome to the BIBF Islamic Finance Talk Series special panel discussion. As Dr. Rizwan has already introduced me, I am Shiza Rabbani, and he has very rightly stated that today we are going somewhere that the industry doesn't often go. not into the technical architecture of Islamic finance, but into the leadership and culture that actually determines whether it remains authentic and relevant. So, we will be talking about the leadership imperative in Islamic finance and how it can drive organizational cultural change. So, in this session, we're exploring what it truly takes for leadership to drive real, lasting cultural change inside Islamic financial institutions. Not what a leader says about culture, but what they actually do day after day to move an organization from Sharia compliance on paper to Sharia conviction in practice. So, I have with me two leaders who have lived this challenge at the highest level. And by the end of our conversation, I want us to walk away with three clear things. Number one, what should a leader actually change first when they want to shift culture? Number two, how do you handle the resistance that will inevitably come? And how do we develop the next generation of leaders who are not just managers, but like the early builders of this industry, true believers and movers? And to answer these questions, joining me today are two leaders who bring deep first hand experience of leading cultural change at the highest levels of Islamic banking. It is a pleasure to introduce Dato Muazzam Muhammad, who has served as Chief Executive Officer of Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad, one of the most established and respected Islamic banks globally. And over the course of his tenure, he led the institution through periods of strategic growth and transformation while navigating the responsibilities that come with leading a flagship Islamic bank in Malaysia. Dato Muazzam, it is a privilege to have you with us today, and thank you for sparing the time.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure having you. And joining him is Mr. Mufaddal Khumri, CEO, Maldives Islamic Bank. In his role, Mr. Mufaddal has been focused on building institutional strength and culture in a market that is both deeply rooted in Islamic identity and still developing as a frontier Islamic finance jurisdiction. Mr. Mufaddal, welcome, and once again, thank you for being here with us today.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all of us over here. And it is indeed lovely to be here sitting amidst some very exalted company, especially Dr. Dato Muazzam. He has been a leader and an inspiration to all of us through his stint in Bank Islam. And I find this a lovely opportunity to be in conversation with him and with you all, and to expound upon the little knowledge that I possess. Thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having you with us today. So, to begin our conversation, I'd like to ask each of you a simple question. What are you most focused on in your leadership journey right now? Not your formal responsibilities, but where your attention and energy are currently directed. Dato Muazzam?
Okay, thank you. That's I think it's quite poignant at this point in time. As you are aware, I have made some shift in my career direction recently. I ended my tenure as the Group CEO of Bank Islam in January. Currently, I'm more focused on the oversight role, as in being on board of several institutions. And because this allows me to be involved in slightly different roles, different industry, but I think more importantly, being able to share the knowledge, the little knowledge and experience that I have, and being able to nurture new leaders and corporate
Dato
leaders.
Muazzam, I think you're being very humble with this one. Little knowledge, but thank you so much. And of course, I think being in a diversified industries and sharing knowledge in all of these is, I think, something that really makes a difference as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Mr. Mufaddal.
Well, I would say I live for the moment, live in the present, right? It's like, when you get up in the morning, you are interested in going to work. You are interested in bringing about whatever little change you can each day. Because work is something very passionate, and I feel it's kind of devotion, right? It's worship for us. So for my focus has always remained to be engaged with my people, to be engaged with the stakeholders, and to be excited each day when you arrive and work, and to see what more can you do, what more can you contribute towards the betterment of your work environment, and to keep yourself excited and motivated. It's pretty simple. Live in the present.
I think very positive energy going out. Yeah. So thank you to both of you. I think you both rightly said, first of all, I think it starts with the foundation of being positive and to live for the moment. And then, of course, sharing your knowledge that you have. So both of those things inculcated make the leadership journey more stronger and much better. So, Dato Muazzam, I'd like to actually begin with your own leadership journey to dive a little deeper into this topic. So, looking back at your path to CEO of Bank Islam, which one or two experiences I would say that most shaped the way you lead today? And as the role grew in scale and complexity, what did you find yourself having to unlearn? Because I think a lot of times we talk about the things that we had to learn, but there are a lot of times that we have to unlearn a few actions or the ways of leading. So I would like to really know that what are the things that you had to unlearn related to that.
Yeah, thank you. And for me, when I reflect, it's learn, unlearn, but at the same time, it's what you are able to bring from your previous experience to the organization or institution that you are currently with. So if I were to share a little bit in terms of my journey, actually I started the first 18 years of my life in a professional services firm. I was a partner in KPMG in Malaysia, and also, I practiced about 2 years in the UK. In a professional services firm, you deal with people basically, right? Because you provide advice to your clients and all that, and you use a lot of technology and different skill sets that we've got to harness at that time. When I went to the bank as a CFO, when I started, I didn't come in as a true blue banker. I came in also bringing in that slightly different experience that I had from the fellow bankers that were there in Bank Islam. So that's one thing. And in terms of my contribution, I try to differentiate to be able to bring in something slightly different to what's already on the table. But I think most importantly, in the first part of my journey as a CEO, I was the CFO for 3 years. So when I joined the organization, I took my time to understand the identity of the organization, because it's different from the organization that I was in. And to me, that's very important to identify the purpose of the organization and the identity. And why it is important, because what I realized with Bank Islam at that time, we were already 35 years in the market. So this was back in 2018 when I became a CEO. But beyond that, you did mention about leadership position and all that. We cannot just rest on our laurels being the oldest, right? To
Yeah.
be a leader means that you need to be the one to continue charting the path forward. What is that path forward that we're charting? And understanding enough about the purpose, the identity, at the same time charting the path forward. These were the things that I were heavily involved with in terms of shaping the new narratives for the bank. So that culminated in us, rewriting in a way, not redefining our identity, but rewriting the narratives of our vision, our mission, so that it truly reflects who we are, uh, but in tune with the time that we were in and where we are heading going forward. And something that must resonate well with the people. And identifying what is that new way forward. And the challenge for Bank Islam was not just for the bank, but for the industry as well. So I would say in terms of what we put in place in the beginning was very interesting. And the journey that we went through from what we put in the last 7 years that I was there as the CEO has been truly fulfilling, I would say, in terms of what we experienced.
Experience. So what stayed constant throughout all of this?
The most important thing that we know where we must be seen and visible is the kind of impact that we make. Bank Islam, when it was set up, even 40 over years ago, it was not meant to be just another bank. In Malaysia, there were already more than 30 banks at that time, but it was created to serve a very special purpose, to serve the Islamic community, Islamic finance. And that's very important for us to continue in that journey, continue to be unique and charting the way. Secondly, is that in terms of the kind of integrity that must be in place of what people expect of us, that needs continue to be upheld. So in terms of leadership, in terms of charting the new path of what Islamic finance should be, as well as in terms of conducting ourselves in the way how it is expected of us.
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, knowing the purpose and the people that you're really serving.
Exactly, yes.
So what about you, Mr. Mufaddal? What experiences most shaped the way that you lead today? And what are the things that you had to unlearn along this entire journey?
Well, I started my career as a core banker about 3 decades back, right? And over the last 3 decades, I certainly have learned not just to unlearn, right? Because when you unlearn, you also have to evolve and get yourself accustomed to learning in the new environment. See, learning is, I always feel it's like evolving yourself every moment and every day. And as a leader, right, there is an element of romanticism that comes into a leadership role. But what we fail to understand it, that moreover, there is higher accountability that comes with that role. It's about not just leading the institution, it is about trying to make a difference to the lives of not just your employees, but also to those of your customers and the stakeholders. So that responsibility that comes along in a role, you just cannot say that you are unlearning everything on a daily basis. Rather, you are trying to bring about changes in the way you function by learning from everybody, be it your staff, your customers, your regulators, and also from industry peer group and non-industry groups. I always believe banking is all about consumers these days. You have corporate consumers, you have retail consumers, you have wealth consumers. So you're actually dealing with people. You are dealing with technology, but you are also dealing with people. So you need to understand people more than what you feel that you understand, right?
Yeah.
And we spoke about accountability, we spoke about transparency, motivation. There are lots of things that you learn about on a daily basis. And I feel that the emphasis Islam has always laid upon is that be a student, right? The concept of a talib, that you're always wanting to learn more and more as you engage in your journey. And knowledge can come from various directions. And many a time, let me tell you, I have unlearned a lot from my subordinates more than from my peers. I think a lot of my knowledge comes from them because many a time the peer group does not pass on, but you learn from subordinates, and they are the ones who have changed me quite a bit. And I'm thankful. I learn many things from the guard who stands at the door taking care of our security. Or I learn a lot of it from people who clean the toilets. They pass on certain messages to us, right? So that's pretty simple, that we should be willing to learn from all and everybody who are willing to pass on the little knowledge to us. And these are daily small incidents that go to make you what you are today.
Yes. And I think at the end of the day, once again, as Dato Muazzam also said, and you also said, knowing who you're serving and the people, at the end of the day, no matter how much technology evolves and advances, at the end of the day, the human factor should stay there. So for that as well, I think the culture is made up of people. People are the one who change the culture. People are the ones who modify it, or, basic foundation starts with the people. So how do you set out to drive that cultural change, and what do you tackle first? Like, how do you decide the sequence? Once you're actually in that process, what do you do in the first 30 to 60 days? Mr. Mufaddal, yeah.
Okay. Well, you see, I have worked in 3 different environments, I would say. I've started my career in India, then moved to the Middle East, right? And worked in most of the GCC countries and then come down to the Maldives. So the experiences, when you leave your home country and you start working with people in a multi-ethnic and a multinational environment, you need to understand the context of the organization, the context of the nation. See, the role of a leader is contextual. You can fail or succeed based on the context of the organization, nation, and the culture that you bring about. So the first thing you have to do is to be a good listener. I think a leader, the hallmark of a good leader or an evolving leader is to listen to people. So what I do is whenever I take up a new assignment, I put a lot of emphasis on listening to my comrades, listening to my stakeholders, listening to everybody who is involved. Once you understand their perspective, their point of view, only then do you start bringing about your views into motion. We generally fail when we force our views on others or our opinion on others. But when we listen and then try to contextualize that into what is needed to bring about changes in the organization, then people start appreciating what you're trying to say, be it the work environment, the product that you want to introduce, the legal environment that you look at. You also try and understand the social environment, right? The manner in which the organization works. Some organizations are consultative. Sometimes the process is driven, authoritative driven. So what do people prefer? People of different nationalities prefer a different approach when you speak to them or when you hear from them. So a lot of things go into. So the first 30 to 60 days in any role should be to try and appreciate, understand what is happening, and do not try to impose yourself on others. That is the worst possible thing that can happen, right? Consultative approach is much better. And you should also learn as a leader when to step back and when you step in. I think those are critical things. So the 60-day or 30-day learning journey is very essential. And once you have understood what is needed, then you start about bringing the changes in the organization.
Yes, very well said. What about you, Dato Muazzam? The first 1 to 2 months, how do you tackle that cultural change?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with Brother Mufaddal. Basically, you need to understand the organization and in this context, right? Contextual, yes. You understand the purpose of the organization. You need to understand from there what should be the identity of the organization. Then beyond that, then that's where all the hard work needs to happen. Because when you talk about purpose and behaviors and all that, these are very subjective, we say. Because what is also important for you to be able to communicate this to everyone within the organization for them to understand. Because when we talk about culture change, it's everybody in the organizations need to change, right? So for that to happen, other than them understanding contextually of what it is, you need to be able to codify it. So this is where you need to prepare like programs to ensure that the behaviors can change first, the desired behaviors. And I would start with the CEO and the direct reports, because these are the people who are most visible by the people in the organization. And then you cascade that into the corporate strategy that would be cascaded to your targets, and it needs to be embedded properly into your performance management system. So it requires the whole suite of initiatives for that to happen. But definitely the first 30, 60 days is, be able to frame the purpose of the organization and get everybody to be on board, everybody to understand and sign up to say, yes, this is our organization. This is the identity of the organization. This is how we, all of us in the organization, need to behave to be able to live up to that identity.
Yes. I think really just getting to know people and rather than enforcing things, just, building that foundation in the start. So, Dato Muazzam, Bank Islam has long been identified with Islamic banking leadership as well. And so, in your experience, what are the clearest indicators that an institution is moving from Sharia compliant to genuinely Sharia driven in its decisions and culture? And what are the less obvious signs that show whether this shift is really happening?
For Bank Islam, for those who may not know, it is a commercial entity because it is public listed entity. So we've got shareholders who are really interested in the amount of dividend that they get from the bank. So we've got that. So in a way, we have to strike a real good balance in terms of serving our different stakeholders. Because we have on one side, we've got our customers who are our stakeholders. We have our employees, close to 6,000 of them as a stakeholder. We've got the powers at the Putrajaya at the country level, who's also a stakeholder because Bank Islam is the first Islamic bank and they want Bank Islam to chart the path for Islamic finance. We've got our shareholders, and our shareholders can be institutions and it can be retail shareholders who hold shares in Bank Islam because they want dividend, right? So in striking this balance, we need to ensure that we stay true to our identity. We must never fall astray from the purpose of the entity, but at the same time, we need to ensure that we are also commercially viable. So that is the part that I spent a lot of time on getting alignment across all stakeholders for them to understand and to say that, yes, this is who we are, what we should be, good commercial returns, but at the same time, we are making clear impact to the society, community, and also to the Islamic finance industry.
Yes.
But how does it show outwards? How do people know that we are Islamic finance at heart and not just as a slogan or as a branding? I think the clearest sign will be in terms of decision making. And it's when things are hard, during hard time, when you need to make hard decisions, this is where it is important for us to be clear of who we are. And in the situations that we were in, I led the organization through the most difficult of times. For example, during COVID, where we've got a lot of customers who are under distress. And obviously that is the part that you need to really juggle, how much leeway do we give? Because that's also giving up a lot of profit for the organization, for example. So this is where we strike a balance, and Alhamdulillah, we're able to do it. We're able to assist our customers in distress to get through the hard time. At the same time, we manage to continue to keep the financial strength of the organization intact through that period. And you would have seen from our financial results, we got through those difficult times, I would say quite unscathed in a way. So back to the proof of it will be when times are hard, you need to make that hard decision. How do you anchor it to the purpose of the organization?
Yes. So, Mr. Mufaddal, how do you approach this in a Maldives Islamic Bank where Islamic identity is central, but the organization is still building its foundation?
Well, as Dato clearly mentioned, that money is not bad. Money is crucial, critical, and acts like a fertilizer. The more you spread it, the more does it give you the higher return. So return is good, and we should at no point of time be under any kind of an illusion that we are not in a commercially run organization. We are a commercial entity and we are responsible to all the stakeholders, and that was very well clarified by Dato. Right? We are not into the business of charity. And I feel extremely distressed when people try to align Islamic banking with charitable work and we say that, no, that it is value driven, sir. Now, when an industry is value driven, it doesn't mean that you're not commercially motivated. We are commercially motivated, but we have to bring about a right balance between our urge to earn more and our urge to remain true to what we call a Sharia driven approach. That we are not lustful about returns, but at the same time, we are conscious of giving the right returns to our depositors and to our shareholders. We cannot compromise in that. And at the same time, if you do not provide funds to your financing portfolio at the right return, then you will not earn. So there's no compromise in that. It's pretty clear about it, right?
Yeah.
What is very essential is that we need not proselytize about Islamic banking any longer. What we need to show to the world is how we work, our actions. right? Let them learn from it. Today at the industry forums, when you visit and people talk about now, can you promote? Don't promote Islamic banking, sir. Please
Yeah.
try and promote the way we work, the way we treat our customers, the way we try to bring about the Islamic principle of justice, equality, and respect and dignity of work. Let's promote all of that and see the functioning of the institution to be a beacon for others to follow. Right?
Yeah.
Let's not talk about, proselytizing is one of the worst diseases that has actually crept into our industry. We should stay away from it. Let's only work, show that we are profitable. At the same time, we are also conscious about our social responsibility. So it's pretty
I
simple.
think very well said this thing that it's not a charity case and it's not something that we're just giving out charity. It's about the value driven approach that we have. And to make this distinction and to get this message across the audiences, I think that in itself is very important as well. So, Mr. Mufaddal, also I would like to ask you that while this is an approach that we understand, there's a huge audience of customers and stakeholders out there who might be resistant to change as well. So tell us about a time you faced real resistance to a change you believed was necessary. And when you look back now to what the resistance truly was about, was it fear, incentive, and what did you do differently as a result of that as well?
Okay, let me straightforward tell you that there is no person on earth who is not willing to bring about a change, right?
Okay.
Change, everybody welcomes change. There is no individual, no entity that does not want change to happen. Nobody wants to stay in a cocoon, right? Everybody wants to evolve. What people need is, why are you bringing the change? How are you bringing the change? How do you motivate people to bring about the change? So it's conversation, it's communication, it's engagement, and show them what are the benefits of the change. Demonstrate to them. Nobody will agree to disagree on that, right? My staff, wherever I have worked in about 5 institutions, we always bring changes, right? Changes in the way we work, the changes in the business environment, in the economy that happens, right? How we as an institution would like to chart out our progress in the future. So I have never faced at any point of time any resistance to any change. I have rather felt all of my staff members to tell me, let's bring in the change, but tell us what we need to do to be participants in this change. See, change is a consultative process. Take people along with you, explain to them, demonstrate, and they will more than be willing to become companions or partners in the change. As I said, consensus building is very critical. And then, it's very simple. When you want to do changes on a daily basis, I motivate my staff members, right? Talk to them, right? When you give a task to somebody and if you motivate them for 10 minutes, the outcome is much different
Yeah.
compared to a totalitarian or draconian measure. I have set a circular, you have to follow it. Now, explain to them why you're doing it. People will be willing to be participants in the journey. It's a journey, right?
Yeah.
So we are all part of a journey. Let's enjoy the change. And there is no resistance to change at all. Let's keep that aside. People love change. I love change. You love change. We all love change. And we look forward to a different dynamic each day, right? Just the way we look forward to eating different food every day, wearing different clothes every day, right? Nobody wants to be stagnant. And that is why I always tell people that our religion itself teaches us to a large extent that please contextually read and understand things, what was divinely ordained by Allah, right? Similarly, change is divinely ordained.
Yes.
I hope I've made myself clear
No,
in
I
the little conversation. Thank you so much for that.
very well articulated all of
Right?
that. Yeah.
And there are so many incidents you can talk about, in the bank that we bring about changes. Mine is a young bank. The staff age is about 31. It's a millennial run bank. And these people love changes, right? And whether it's a budget changes, numbers driven approach, customer centric. But what I always tell people is the one change that I always tell people about is be obsessively driven by your customers. So customer obsession is the most important thing in my bank. And we live by it, we die by it.
Yeah. I think
Sheila,
When
if
I
I
say die by it, I'm not literally talking about death, but what we say is we don't want our customers to die. We want our customers to prosper, make them feel excited, make them feel we service them, and make them feel wanted.
yeah.
Thank you.
and make them feel right.
Right.
That's
The customer is always right, but at the same time, we should realize that when they are wrong, we should have the courage to go up and tell them that you're wrong.
And I
Excellent.
think really just taking people along as companions. Rather than having an authoritative approach, as you've mentioned, resistance comes from more or less that authoritative approach that anyone has. That,
Absolutely, ma'am. See, look at all our hadiths. What are they saying? Companions of the Holy Prophet.
yeah,
Right? We are all companions in the journey.
yeah.
Right? We are all equals. Islam has believed in justice and equality, and I think we are all equals. I am a CEO tomorrow I may just return back to be a normal person, as Brother Muslim has clearly said that I was a CEO, but here I am today in the fraternity of men. We are all equals.
Definitely, definitely. So, Datu Muazzam, once again, I think we've established that resistance is inevitable, but at the same time, if you take people along as companions, no one is against the change as well. But at the scale of Bank Islam, was there any resistance, and where did it most commonly come from, if there was any? And in your belief or opinion, what tends to be the most persistent source of inertia when trying to move a large institution towards change?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with the point by Brother Mufaddal. Actually, even in my experience, there wasn't any, I would say, resistance to change. Most importantly, is that they need to understand why we are making changes.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to change for the better. So as long as they understand it, they will be supportive. They want to be part of that, being better. They want to be part of the journey. So I mean, whether it's a small organization, it's a large organization, the behavior is the same. It's just that the process you take it through will be slightly different, because in a smaller organization, there's a lot of direct face-to-face engagement between the leader and also the people in the team. In an organization like 6,000 and all that, we need to have many different people communicating in terms of why, how, and what that will happen. Takes slightly longer, but there shouldn't be any resistance to change as long as people understand enough of why we have to go through it and what will come out of it.
What's the outcome out of all of that?
Yes.
So, as we've already discussed previously, as well as Mr. Mufaddal also said, that, rather than just thinking about it as giving out charity, or that Islamic banking is not really commercially driven at the same time, but it's related to the values that we have, and it's value-based decision making and the entire process. So this is a question for both of you, that when commercial targets and value-based, decision making appear to collide, what is your practical decision rule, I would say, as a leader, and how do you communicate it to your teams to experience the consistency rather than just the slogans? So, Datu Muazzam.
In our own experience, when we started off, we know that we must be able to assist businesses that are viable. We also know that we must be able to continue to support the underserved. When we look at the way how the bank is funded, we have depositors, we have shareholders. And to give good returns to this group, we need to ensure that the funding that we obtain from them are channeled towards supporting businesses that are viable. So for the underserved, that's why we launched Sadaqah House by Bank Islam, whereby in terms of the capital that we use to support it is meant for charitable purposes, for benevolent causes. And we're able to do that. And we're able to expand in terms of the product offerings and also in terms of the scale that we are able to do it. So where I'm coming at is that you need to be able to codify it to a certain extent. In our case, we understand enough about our purpose. What do we need to do? What kind of impact do we need to make? And we embed it within our corporate strategy. That results in us even diversifying the funding sources for the different purposes, being able to give that kind of good returns. And once you do that, cascading the targets and all that will be a lot easier. People who get the target, they understand which segment that I'm serving and how am I helping to create that kind of impact. At the same time, we also codify the kind of behavior as well. I mean, you've got targets, but you cannot use shortcuts and all that. This is how we expect everybody in the organization to be able to make your decision to conduct yourself and all that. For example, you need to be truthful, transparent with your customers. The terms must be fair for both parties. So, and what I tend to do in the beginning part and throughout my tenure was to be able to lead by example, and that people see it in the way how I decide. Like I did mention that the real proof of whether you live it is when you need to make hard decisions. So how do you make it? And I continue to remind myself that that is where I can truly show what we meant when we talk about we are Islamic finance at heart. So at the same time, like I did mention earlier, it's all about communication as well. And I make sure that at every engagement that I have with my team, I touch a little bit about the hard part, the targets and all that, because they all know at the beginning of the year, they all know what kind of targets they need to have from which segment and all that. But in my interactions daily, it's always about the behavior, it's always about the culture, it's always about the values, because I think this is important for them first to understand that this is important. And when they hear it being repeated every time, that's something that should resonate with everybody.
So I think rather than this thing that I said, that colliding, maybe we should say that we can integrate both of those things, the decision making as well as the commercial aspect of that. And the cherry on top, I would say, is the communication that we have with our employees and with our team that we have. Then I think both of those things become a lot smoother.
It's that, and also from the experience that we had, because people joined Bank Islam, a lot of them, because the values of the bank resonate with their own values. And when we are able to show that even at the corporate level, this is our purpose, this is what we're aiming for, and when we cascade even the targets, this can see from their own individual contribution, how does that help to support what the organization is for in a way. And it becomes something very empowering and energizing, because like Mr. Mufaddal said, everybody wants to feel important, to know that they are doing an important role. And even when you are at the most junior level in the organization, you know how you are actually contributing towards why the bank is there.
Yeah, the bigger picture.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Mr. Mufaddal, what do you have to say about this? Do you agree with Dato Muazzam, or would you do something different? And to your team, how would you explain the decision if there is a sort of like a collision between the commercial targets and the value-based decision?
There is no reason to disagree with what Dato has said, because as a member of the fraternity of Islamic banks, we are very clear about a couple of things, when it comes to value-based approach, right? But at the same time, as we said, when there is a clash between a commercial decision and our values, we naturally would not like to compromise on our values, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, right, we will see what are the means available to achieve the same commercial objectives through a value-based approach. And there are times when in all our careers, we have to forego some portion of the income, which may be dirty income, right? Which other institutions may be willing to pledge for or go in for. We consciously decide not to get into those areas when it comes to charges on customers, when it comes to trying to look at a short-term opportunity to make some revenues. Now, such guerrilla tactics should be avoided, right? We should look at a stable approach to, we are commercially driven, but at the same time, I did use the word that we are not lustful about money. That's pretty clear, right? And then we spoke about how do you create that environment within the organization. Is Datu was right in saying that you need to create multiple leaders at different levels in the organization. Not every leader comes with the same set of skills, right? Create leaders who are responsible for allocating and doing certain jobs and inspiring, motivating people, and also instigating them to achieve those targets,
Yes.
Right? A target-driven organization is extremely essential because there is no free money and there is no free food. Let them feel that they have earned their livelihood in the proper way, and
Yeah.
always give emphasis to dignity of work, because that's pretty clear. That's a value-driven approach. The smallest of the jobs in the institution is important, because remember, we are all a part of a larger machinery. One clock will result in the machine stopping. So nobody is so important that he or she is not replaceable, but we are all critical to run the engine in a nice, smooth manner.
Smooth manner. Mm. Yeah.
I think
I think you very well. Sorry, yes, Dr. Rizwan.
I think this has so far been music to the ears. I mean, talking
Yeah.
about commercial viability, bringing values-driven culture, leadership journeys, and making hard decisions. And I think all of you, both of you have been there, have made those hard decisions. And I think most lately, if we can, think about the COVID-19 has been, unprecedented in terms of what Islamic banks went through, and they went in terms of understanding the general public in terms of what they where they were lagging behind and the support needed will come in, in particular from the Islamic banks. And of course, that is again driven from our values and culture. The conversation is shaping up really well, but I wanted to pick up on your brain on what, you talked about, Mr. Fadl, you talked about the leadership and developing leaders. And I think this is natural to the leaders that you are in terms of, and I think in the industry is something that we lack as we speak, right? I mean, we know the founding fathers in the Islamic banking and finance, to the likes of Sheikh Saleh Kamel, Prince Faisal, and the likes, who have developed institutions globally. We have, the founder of Bukhari Foundation in Malaysia, for example. But these are the individuals who are institutions by themselves. But as we see, fast forward today, 50 years of Islamic banking and finance, we somehow feel there is a bit of a missed boat somewhere there. The people that I just mentioned, they were not just the who were shaping the Islamic finance industry. They were true believers in the spirit of Islamic banking and finance. And this is where I want to take the conversation forward and perhaps pick up on your on what you have to say in terms of developing the next layer of leaders. How are we shaping them? Not just from a commercial perspective, rather people who believe in the underlying values of Islamic banking and finance more so than the commercial angle. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on how to develop the next layer of leaders within the industry.
If I can go first, basically, I wasn't born as an Islamic finance professional. I was in a professional services organization. I came in only about 11 years ago, but because I'm attracted as an outsider about what the promises are in terms of what the industry offers. And the first thing that I did when I came into the industry was that I sat down with the pioneers of Islamic finance in Malaysia. For example, I had the opportunity to speak to even the founder of Bank Islam, Almarhum Datuk Dr. Abdul Halim, and also some of the long-serving employees in Bank Islam, those who were with the bank from the first day and were still there in the organization. And these people actually made a decision to pivot. Either they were from previous other banking entities to join Islamic Bank and all that, because they believe in the purpose of what the organization was set up for. So it is in their heart, basically. And I think this is something that all of us in Islamic financial institutions in the industry needs to understand, that Islamic finance is not just a good branding. It's not just a good branding. It is not just another service offerings by financial sector. It's unique in terms of what it is serving. So that's something very important. But at the same time, what we also did in the past was that we need to be realistic, because having the right intention will not show you the result and the outcome and the impact that people want. So that's, again, like I said, understanding the purpose, making sure that it resonates is important, but we need to be able to codify it to ensure that, in terms of the performance and also in terms of the ethics and integrity and behavior are aligned. So that's the reason, for example, if I can quote what we did, was that we blend in terms of the way how we assess talent, we make sure that we put both in terms of the KPI. Obviously, everybody understands that. We also codify what we call KBI, key behavioral indicators, which is cascaded from our corporate values that we define as TAAT, uh, uh, and then we embed it as part of our performance management framework so that it resonates with everybody as an aid conduct, for example. And that is translated into the type of demonstrable, actionable behaviors for people at every level so that they know that, okay, if I want to live the values of the organization as a clerk, for example, or as a frontline staff, how should I behave? And we set examples of that, because so we need to make sure that we talk about talents, culture, about people demonstrating the right intention. We must be able to show as well how you do it in real life, in you performing your duties.
Excellent. I think that's a very good insight. Mr. Mufaddal, how do you think about shaping new leaders?
Well, of course, a leader is defined by his appetite to question, to not trend the obvious, to travel the path less ordained. Right? So, unless and until you notice a person willing to not go by the well accepted norm, but to bring about a change in the way things are done, he doesn't become a leader. Right? Let us also be honest that not everybody has a leadership trait or a quality. To identify the right leader, you need to first of all see whether the person has passion within, along with accountability and a right degree of moral quotient. So for me, this is very critical before you identify a leader. And then the leader should also be willing to learn throughout the journey, take people along, look at the well-being of the staff, be commercially driven, and also somebody who has the courage and the temerity to say no to people. You don't want yes people to become leaders. You want somebody to say no. No to the shareholders, no to the board, no to the staff, and at times also stand up to the Sharia board when you realize that a commercial decision has to be taken by balancing some of the Sharia principles. Is there a way out? The more you question to the Sharia scholars, the more are the ways that they are willing to let you follow, right? But the problem is sometimes you feel afraid of questioning. So those who are unwilling to pick up the mantle can never become leaders. So for me, that's very critical. One other element I look into a new leader is innovation. How can you consistently be obsessed about innovation, the smallest of the innovation? And in today's world, you cannot account for being a leader if you're not comfortable with the way technology is moving. Right? Banking is becoming more technology driven than what it was before. So somebody who has the acumen to understand technology, to try and grasp the new changes, how those can be integrated into the financial system today. Plus, the most important portion, as I said earlier, was about the obsession about people. Are you a people's person or not? So if you take all of these elements and if you consistently try to bring about, rather not bring about, consistently try to groom a leader by looking at all these elements, then I think you can get a new crop of leaders who are very different from the current crop of leaders that we have in the industry, right? The new leaders would be a lot less formal, willing to not be dressed and suited like bankers we usually are, but more casual. So what? Even a leader can be casual in their approach and their dressing sense, but more driven to work and ambitious, right? You cannot appoint somebody who doesn't have an ambition as a leader. Ambition is the core of human survival. Unless you are ambitious, you cannot bring about the changes that you desire at the institutional level. So these were some of the points that you look into while appointing a leader. And finally, I would say is the maturity. You see, you can become a leader, but do you have the maturity to remain at that position for an effectual long period of time to bring about a change? Because remember, any change that you bring about needs time. So you need somebody who can stay at the top and has the maturity to be there, and at the same time not compromise on the ethical values. Because in the modern world today, you are beset with more and more opportunities to compromise on your values. Can you stand up to many of these and say no to many opportunities that may come your way to make money or to make commercial gains which are not sound, which are not ethical? So you look at all these elements and you develop leaders. As Brother Mozum said, the majority of the Islamic banking fraternity, the leaders today come from the conventional background. They have worked in conventional banks, right? But a time will come over the next 20, 30 years where you have people who are heading Islamic banks who actually started their career with Islamic banks. So naturally, their approach and their values would be a lot different from what we observe today. Their passion levels would be a lot different, and they would effectually bring about a domination of the Islamic banking industry, at least in the OIC member countries, right? But our real challenge lies in trying to grow our balance sheet across many jurisdictions that we are, because unless and until you become off size, you will never get respect globally. So we need leaders who think big, and we need to create the JP Morgans, the Cities, and the Bank of China and the ICBCs of the world in the Islamic world. We need scale. Without scale, we will not get respect.
Definitely. And Dr. Rizwan, would you like to say something? I would like to actually follow up on this as well. So, as both of you have mentioned very rightly so about the leadership appetite, the traits, and then understanding the purpose and codifying it in behavior, and whether it's through strategies in KPIs or KBIs, and then again not compromising on the values and regardless of how strong the performance case looks. So. Mr. Mufaddal, I would like to ask you that what do you personally review monthly or quarterly that tells you something real about the culture, about the commercial aspect of it, as well as the value-based team that you have, and something that you would never learn from a formal report that is presented to you?
Well, I have this concept of engaging with my staff quite a bit across different levels. So when you engage with them, you actually get to know what's happening on the ground. One way is to only look at reports or chair meetings. But I believe that is right. But if you have the opportunity, and let me also tell you, being in a small organization affords you the luxury of trying to get into and meet a lot more people. Unlike what Brother Muslim said, that if you work in an organization which has got 20,000 people, 100,000 people, it's not that easy for the CEO to go down and meet people at every level, right? But then we should not forget that large democracies also sustain, or large countries also sustain, when the leader goes out and listens to people across various jurisdictions, right? So I think the role of the leader is irrespective whether you're working in a small or a large organization. Go out to the branches, go out to your customers, go out to your staff at different levels, talk to them, understand them. Chairing meetings and looking at reports are fine. You can be a numbers driven person through that. By chairing regular meetings, you are also able to get to know what's happening in the organization. But communicating and talking to people is extremely essential. And also, it is critical for you to try and talk to your customers to try and understand what are their views about your bank, about your institution. You need to talk to competition and also try to find out. You see, it is very essential for us to talk to those who hate us more, rather than talk to those who love us, because those who love you will never give you the right feedback. They will never be critical about you. Criticism, constructive, is very essential for the industry to grow and for the institution to grow. So I believe I love spending more time with the naysayers. I love spending more time for those who hate us, who don't believe in us, because they will actually give you more information about what you need to do to bring about that change.
Yeah. Datu Mazum, what about you? Because as Mr. Mufaddal said, that at a larger scale, it might be a little difficult to, go out to the field and talk to the team. And there are some things that you might not be able to find in formal reports. So, in your tenure, did you personally review monthly, quarterly, or anyway that told you something real about the culture at Bank Islam?
Yeah, I mean, when I in our organization when we started, the most immediate group of people that I make sure that the values are properly aligned of those people who are closest to me. Then they understand, because these are people who are also leaders for their own respective teams, right? While I can go down and communicate, it also requires reinforcements from all of them. But it's not just about, advocacy is also about how you live that, and that's very important. For example, there have been situations whereby, I've had difficult conversations with former direct reports on behavior matters. It's not just, KPIs and targets and all that, but those kind of things, because that's very important to me. That's the core of it. You can get it right, you might taint the values and the culture of the organization. So that's very important. So these are the things that we have, and in my experience, we make sure that it is embedded within a formal process that we go through. And like I mentioned, even when I address the stuff, whether it's informally or through town halls, for example, talk about behaviors, culture, and all that, is something that I spend a lot of time on, so that the message gets across to say that we want to do things the right way. We want to do the right things the right way, and because that's who we are in our life.
So, but at the governance level, what mechanisms actually helped you do this entire process? And I would say not what should exist in theory, but what moves the needle in practice for that as well. That was.
Oh, okay. So, like I mentioned earlier, so what we did was that, because we've got corporate values, and it can be very high, can be very objective. So we translate it into something a lot more concrete in terms of the TET, and we break it down into demonstrable behaviors, what we call the 8 conducts, and that is broken into the different roles and the different levels. For example, one of it could be initiative. Initiative at the business head level will mean 1, 2, 3. But at a frontline salesperson, it means 3, 4, 5, for example. And therefore, people know exactly how to behave, right? So a lot of conversation that we're having, talking about culture and all that, if we do not codify this, it becomes something ambiguous. People understand it, but they do not know how to reflect it in their daily life, day-to-day job, as they turn up to work every morning. So that's how we do it. And we have a process. Like I said, as part of our performance management framework, they are assessed not just in achieving their targets or their KPIs, but also in terms of their behaviors, the key behavioral indicators.
Mr. Mufaddal, in an organization like Maldives Islamic Bank, in your opinion, do you guys have some governance level frameworks as well, which helps the mechanism move more smoothly? Because, going out to the team and talking to them is, of course, appreciated, but that is not something that creates.
True.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
there is. Before I touch on the governance part, there are a couple of things which I'd like to talk about. When we discussed a little bit earlier, also, I just felt that the point that was brought about was, as a leader, when you come across a situation where you need to be tough, what do? Right? So I always say that no leadership is complete without the slice of ruthlessness. Right? Ruthlessness is a desirable virtue in every leader. Right? A little bit of cruelty is needed for you to do the overall good. Right? And that's where somebody stands out. When you see a bad apple, pluck it out. Don't wait for it to corrupt the others. Right? At any level. And that is the mantra I've been giving to my team, that don't withstand to work with those who are not willing to engage themselves with the cultural aspects of the organization or with the work ethos of the organization. Just get these people out. The other hallmark is, a good leader should also learn to step back and leave when the right time comes. Go for higher achievements, or realize that they always say that, you see in our world of politics, people want to be the eternal leaders. They just don't want to leave. They don't want to give an opportunity to the others. And I believe a good leader should give opportunities to the young blood. They bring and they come out with different ideas. It's very essential for the organization to be infused with new challenges and new blood, because they bring new thoughts, right? And if that is not brought about, then what happens is we get into a state of lack of agility. You don't become agile as an organization. So that's the part of it. Or coming back to the question of governance, of course, we have a performance appraisal system within the institutions, which gives a lot of emphasis to the soft skills that are embedded into individuals. A good, decent section of the appraisal is done on that to try and give credibility and credence to that aspect. The HR has policies and manuals which are communicated to the people through trainings, through sessions, to try and build within them the right work ethos, right? And there are committees within the organization which monitor the behavioral aspects of the people and see whether they are in consonance with the well-ordained governance standards that we have maintained. Reports are being submitted to the board as well on a regular basis as to what has been done to bring about these changes within the organization. Right. So governance is there, but the governance also needs to be monitored and reported. And once it is monitored, reported, what actions have been taken to set align those governance standards. That there are times when you need to also change the governance standards when you realize that it is archaic. Right. And one point which the Muslim board about is ambiguity. I think the biggest trouble we have is when you are ambiguous yourself. Right. You can't be ambiguous when it comes to certain things. Right. Clarity of purpose is very essential in an organization. So try and kill ambiguity at every level. Only then will you succeed in your governance. Governance is pretty straightforward. It's black and white. There is no scope for any gray areas in that.
Yes.
So that's how, as an organization, we try to be very clean and clear and focused in our approach to try and enforce these values through a strict layer of governance backed by monitoring, reporting, and actions taken to correct the course.
So I want to bring this closer to the people watching this podcast today, the emerging leaders in Islamic finance who are building their careers and trying to hold on to their ethical compass at the same time. Both of you have navigated that journey. So for our viewers today, which career moves or which moves that you turned down built the credibility that eventually led that transformation, and what do you wish that you had done earlier? Dato Mazhab.
I mean, at the end of the day, we need our purpose for being in the organization and Islamic financial institution. So being in the Islamic finance industry must be clear, and it must align with what the industry aspires. I think that's very important. I keep telling my team to say that when you're here, you're not joining just any other bank, because we are serving a higher purpose than just like any other bank, which is ROE and cost income ratio and whatnot, right? So that's very clear. Secondly, is that as leaders, I would remind myself and also my team to say that a lot of time when we talk about leaders, we talk about positions, it will be aligned to authority, power, and to a certain extent in terms of privileges. It's not about that. Leadership is all about responsibility. It's about accountability. So every day we need to question ourselves to say that if we are occupying that position, if we are holding that responsibility, have we delivered what is asked of us? And that forces us to conduct ourselves in the right manner and to continue to strive to excel in what we do. Because otherwise, we are actually doing an injustice to the organization. For example, if I, as a CEO of an Islamic bank, and I behave in a way that does not reflect the values of Islamic finance, I'm doing an injustice to the bank. I might as well just give that position to someone else who will be able to do it better. And what is also important for leaders in Islamic finance is that you need to have that kind of credibility. And how do you bring about that credibility is by having that integrity and definitely competence. It needs to go together. I mean, competence, which is knowledge, experience, knowing the end to end of how bank works and all that, that is essential. But that alone is not enough. Integrity, wanting to do the right thing, do things right, is also important, because the biggest damage or scandal that happened in the world is not done by someone stupid. It's done by someone extremely clever, but without the right integrity, without a good heart. So that's why it must go hand in hand to be a leader in Islamic finance. So these are the few things I think within the conversation that I would like to add, for aspiring new leaders, future leaders, so that we can continue to uphold the good name of the industry.
Yes, definitely. What about you, Mr. Mufaddal?
Yes, what would you like me to cover?
I would actually like you to cover the fact that, what did you wish that you had done earlier, and what helped you to build that credibility and eventually lead that transformation in Maldives
I
Islamic Bank?
think the career path, the trajectory that my career has followed is what I wish for. I would not wish to do anything different. Generally there is a romanticism involved in when people come to the top leadership position. They said, "Oh, I would have done that. This would have happened to life, and how I did that. I'd gone through that in my life." So these are all stories and tales that people like to eulogize about when they reach top positions. But for me, it's very simple. It was simple hard work that has bought slice of luck as well here. And there is nothing different that I would have wanted to do in my life at all. I have done what was ordained, what is needed to achieve here and to be here, and sustain yourself in what you're doing and see what you've done to improve the lives of people around you. You see, there is an ecosystem that you build around you. How effectually have you been able to bring about a change in that ecosystem is all I need to look at. You cannot individually change the world yourself, but collectively, if you all bring about a change in the ecosystem that surrounds us, then you have done your work. And that is the change that can be brought about by multiple sets of individuals who are in a position of influence.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
And I wish, as Dato clearly said, that power should not get into your head. Right? Modesty, humility should be the bedrock of an Islamic banker at any position, at any level, because the value that Islam teaches you in terms of humility and modesty, and to eternally be indebted to knowledge, should be cherished ideals and should continue to inspire and motivate you to learn more, to contribute more, and to bring about a scale change. When I say a scale change, change in the terms of the monetized value of the Islamic banking market. We need to work towards bringing about a large change in that so that you're well respected globally. Right? So if I can be a soldier in that purpose as an institution, and together we can all contribute to increase the scale of Islamic banking, you have achieved a decent purpose in your life, right? And then, yes, I have a lot of dreams, as you say, once you retire, to appreciate and enjoy what has been given to you by Mother Nature. So let's do that. And at the same time, it's very critical for all of us to sustain ourselves, to have hobbies. You see, you can't just be doing work. You need to be infatuated by certain hobbies that you have so that it brings a semblance of balance to your work and personal lives. I think we
Otherwise,
shouldn't
you
miss out on that.
at the end of the day.
Yeah, you need to have hobbies that you pursue, which actually inspires and motivates you to get back to your office the next day.
Yes.
And something you look forward to when you come back home. So how can you contribute to society other than from the financial side? Right?
Yeah.
So please look at that. I believe a future leader should also look at that. Don't just work. Appreciate what life has to offer and have certain hobbies. It's very
Uh, on,
critical.
on a lighter note, Datu Mozam, are you enjoying the time that you're having?
Yeah, it's now I have the ability and bandwidth to do many different things at the same time. Obviously, it's still contributing in terms of the experience and knowledge that I've gained so far, but at the same time, it's also opportunity for me to learn new things, especially learn about new sectors, for example. So yeah, it's been fulfilling.
Yeah. That's I think that's really important, because at the end of the day, if we don't take the time out for ourselves, then we won't be able to contribute to any institution in a way that is meaningful. Now, to both of you, if you had to design a leadership factory for Islamic finance, one that genuinely shaped leaders rather than simply promoting high performers, what are your three non-negotiables? And this could be whatever matters most to you, and how would you actually measure whether it is working? um, Dato Moazem, I would like to start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I would start definitely with competency. I think it goes without saying it's important for you to be in Islamic finance. You must understand finance end to end, being able to balance. Secondly, is that you need to have a module for people to be able to internalize the intrinsic values of what Islamic finance is all about. You know, it's not just about the highest ROE and all that. It's giving financial and also non-financial impact to different stakeholders, and not just skewed to just one at the expense of another. We
Yeah.
have got role to play in terms of the impact to the society. And at the same time, there must also be a module, I would say, in terms of advocacy, because at the end of the day, we are also here being a da'i to a certain extent. There is still the non-Islamic finance world out there in terms of whether the practitioners or in terms as consumers and all that. It's also for us, all of us, to be able to bring them into the fold. So, yeah, I would say the curriculum to a certain extent, or factory line or a plant needs to be able to have these elements.
Okay. Mr. Mufaddal, what about you?
Well, the word you used was factory. I know factory produces the same set of things. So let's not talk about a factory. What we need is different individuals with different personalities and different skills to dominate the industry, right? You cannot have leaders with the same skills and traits. Every leader has to be different, right?
Yeah.
And as I said, that work in the context of the country where he or she is operating, the organization, and the nationalities where he or she is working. So I would look at somebody who can work in a multi-ethnic environment. Today, it's very because today we are not working in a closed world. You are working with people of different nationalities, cultures, ethnicities. How well can you get yourself aligned to different cultures, ideologies, beliefs, religious systems? How well can you accommodate all these? So somebody who's a tolerant person is what I will look at. I
Yeah.
will critically look at somebody who's contagiously ambitious, because if you don't have ambition, you can do nothing in this world, right? And I would also look at somebody who is a good mix of virtue and vice, because I always tell that you cannot succeed without some vices. So you need some vices that helps you to pursue your virtue with more vigor. So a little bit different compared to what we say, because of course competencies, knowledge, all of this you look at, that's a given for all that. But these three critical elements are very essential to try and build leaders. And I always tell everybody, do not try to aim yourself to be like others. Establish your own identity, be your own. Because if you try to ape others, you will never be a successful leader. Be yourself. Allow the world to see what you are,
And
rather than
yes.
mimic or copy anybody.
Yeah, I think these are the things that actually creates that leadership appetite in a person, and the only person who can actually succeed in all of this is someone who has those leadership traits and the appetite for that as well. Yes.
Indeed. Right. And I would love to see more women dominate the Islamic banking industry, because I think they bring in a lot more different leadership traits than we men possess. Right. So the soft skills, the better understanding of things that we currently do not enjoy as and understand as men. So I would like to see a lot of more women to be at the helm of many Islamic banks in institutions. Malaysia has had the most lovely governor, right, who headed, right. I think she brought about a lot of changes and she became a global advocate for Islamic banking. And I think her role can never be copied by any other individual, right? She is uh, I would say she is a heroine in that extent, right? So I think we need more women in the industry at the helm, and we also need more women in the Sharia supervisory boards. I think one thing I observe is the influx of only men in Sharia supervisory board. I think Islam belongs to everybody, to men and women. They can be more competent Sharia scholars than men. And I think it is time that Islamic institutions appoint females as the lead in the Sharia supervisory board. I would genuinely want to see that happen.
Definitely, definitely. So as we're moving closer to what has been genuinely an important conversation, I want to end with one final ask from each of you. So one leadership behavior you would want the Islamic finance industry as a whole to adopt more widely, and one cultural habit that Islamic banks should stop. And you can be completely candid about this one as well as you've been with other questions.
I think for me, what we should stop is to look at conventional finance and see how can we make it Sharia compliant. I think that's where we should stop. Innovation, in true innovation, in sense that how do we are able to come up with propositions that truly reflect what is the intention behind Islamic finance, and innovation is very important. I think there's still a lot that we can do going forward that can help to spur the growth of Islamic finance, that can help to serve our community, especially, there's still a big chunk of segment of potential that we call as underserved communities, for example, that actually should be served properly by Islamic financial institutions. And again, like I said, and for us to be able to do this, we must truly believe that this is what we really want to do. So there's a lot of potential still, requires a lot of courage as well, and needs to be someone like Brother Mufaddal mentioned. There must be an ambition to innovate because there's a lot more that we can do.
Definitely. Mr. Mufaddal.
Well, I would say that we should talk to those who don't believe in Islamic banking and finance and those who have been uh, abjectly pointing out to why they feel Islamic banking and finance is not right. Let's talk to them, understand their concerns, and try to see what we can do to improve and be distinct and different in the way we do business. So talking to your enemies is very essential. They're not your enemies. They actually are trying to criticize and tell you that I don't see a difference. So unless you talk to them, you cannot improve. The other is that stop proselytizing about Islamic banking and finance. Work and let people see your work. As we always say, the akhlaq is very essential. Let people see the way you operate. Let people see the way you bring about innovation. Let people see the way you do things differently. And let that be the message. Let that be the message, because unless and until it is commercially viable, nothing works in the world. As simple as that. So stop emotionally draining people and say, just because you're Muslim, you have to do Islamic banking. I'm sorry, sir. Stop that. Show them a reason to come to you. Don't use religion appeal. Don't use the religious appeal time and again. Stop that. Let the work appeal come. Let the functional appeal come. Let the commercial appeal come. Let the humane appeal come to us in the industry. Thank you.
We very famously say that actions speak louder than words. So let the actions actually speak for themselves at the same time, and let Islamic banking be something which is action driven rather than we convincing the institutions or the people to come to Islamic banking just because it is Islamic, right? So Dato Muazzam and Mr. Mufaddal, thank you very, very much for being here with us today and for sparing the time. And I think your reflections today went beyond the governance and the regulations that we very commonly talk about. They touched on something more fundamental, which is the leadership mindset and the organizational culture that will ultimately determine how authentic and sustainable Islamic finance becomes. And personally, what stood out most in this conversation to me is that real cultural change in Islamic finance does not actually begin with new frameworks or policies. So it begins with leaders who are willing to make difficult calls to protect their values and under pressure, as Mr. Mufaddal also said, pluck out the bad apple, right? And to deliberately shape the next generation with conviction. So the gap between that compliance and conviction is ultimately closed by the people, the culture, and not by the processes. Thank you very much for being here with us today, for having this conversation with us, and for actually giving us an insight into the institution and the culture that builds the leaders in Islamic finance. And for everyone who is watching, thank you for joining the podcast. The work of building this industry does not happen in boardrooms alone, right? It happens in decisions, in culture, in who we promote, and what we walk past. So we hope today has given you something to take back into your own leadership practice. Anything that both of you would like to say before we end this podcast? Dato Muazzam.
No, so thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to share some of my thoughts. And I hope it's been a fruitful session for everybody.
Definitely. Mr. Mufaddal.
Again, nice opportunity to air our views and our thoughts on a variety of issues. And I do hope that we did make a little sense in what we spoke. There are moments we would have overstepped our boundaries and in our passion said or done something which may not have been more acceptable to many people. But I always say engagement or a dialogue or a conversation which doesn't uh, come out to be a little vicious makes no sense. So it's been nice and open, and I would suggest that in next conversations, you as an interviewer should pose more tougher questions rather than pose some nicer ones. We need to catch and twist and turn people to get the best out of them so
I
that we
think you
enjoy the
want more
conversation.
of that constructive criticism that you were talking about.
Precisely that, and also, people love to listen what's ailing and what's not right at times. I think we did our best to try and cover those areas. So I hope we've been engaging, and thank you again for giving us this lovely opportunity to air our thoughts.
Dr. Rizwan, as Mr. Mufaddal and Dato Muazzam have very rightly said so, is there anything that you would also like to say about the leadership journey and to drive that organizational change, to bring that change in real time as well?
Thank you very much, Yuza. I think this has been a wonderful session. Our two leaders have very candidly spoken their heart out. I think some of the insights that have been shared through this podcast in the last 45 odd minutes have been very constructive. I must say a lot of experience has come together, and in shaping what they have shared today, the journeys have not been less than decades long, and there's a lot of experience that has come forward. So I just did not want to add anything. And some further mention about asking tough questions. There are tough questions, but inshallah, we'll keep it for the next time, hopefully.
It's
But I want to take this opportunity to thank them very much, Datu Muazzam Muhammad, the former CEO of Bank Islam Malaysia, and Mr. Mufaddal, formerly the CEO of Maldives Islamic Bank, as well as Sheila yourself for moderating this session very, very well. I truly believe that this conversation has been very important reminder that the future of Islamic finance is not only about products or frameworks. It is really about leadership, values, and the kind of culture we build within our institutions. The future of Islamic finance will be shaped not only by what we offer, as Mr. Mufaddal also alluded to, but by the leadership values and culture that define how we offer it. And as well as the real strength of Islamic finance lies not merely in compliant structures, but in leaders who can build institutions grounded in values, purpose, and trust. I am also very thankful to ASAS, the Association of Sharia Advisors in Malaysia, and Islamic Financial Times for partnering up with us in putting together this program. And I would like to also share our own initiative in terms of developing leaders within the industry. We, together with Cambridge Institute of Finance, organize an annual leadership program. And to my understanding, it is the only leadership program within the Islamic banking and finance industry. We call it Cambridge Islamic Finance Leadership Program that we organize on an annual basis at Cambridge University every August, whose aim is to develop the next generation of leaders within the Islamic banking and finance industry. So to our viewers who may be interested in taking up the leadership journey, you may want to look at the program that is taking place. In fact, this year it's taking place between the 2nd of August and the 7th of August at the Cambridge University, in particular at the Trinity Hall. Of course, it's an independent program of the university, but it's a program that is hosted at the university. We have been very lucky to host Mr. Muazzam Muhammad already at the program, and hopefully looking forward to having Mr. Mufaddal as well on the program and sharing their insights with our stakeholders who come from a global diversified set of institutions from around the world. With that, I just want to thank them very much once again for sparing their time and joining us for this important podcast. We at BIBF are very proud to continue creating platforms for these meaningful conversations, and we hope that today's discussion has offered useful reflection for all those working to strengthen the authenticity of Islamic banking and finance and shaping the leaders within the global industry. So thank you everybody for joining us, for all those who have dialed in from different parts of the world. We are thankful for your time. We're thankful to our guests for very candidly speaking, and inshallah we look forward to having all of you in our future Islamic Finance Talk series. So from my side, I would like to thank you once again and wish you safety, wellness, and inshallah, wherever you are, stay happy. So thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much. And thank you to our viewers. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.